What if you had a saline sodic soil and you needed to remediate it? The remediation steps are the same as for a sodic soil. And this actually may be a little less difficult depending on the physical properties of the soil. If the soil isn't greatly affected by sodium, it's still affected by sodium, but if it's not greatly affected by sodium and it's affected to a greater extent by just overall salts, the physical properties of dispersion may not be as prevalent, and thus it's easier for you to push water through the soil. But the steps are basically the same. In fact, they're identical to reclaiming a sodic soil. And the steps are here as follows. Establish drainage. Amend the soil according to a soil analysis, which means that you need to add something to exchange sodium from the exchange sites. And this would be either gypsum, you would add gypsum, or you might add elemental sulfur if you're dealing with a calcareous soil, just like we described in the previous video for sodic soils. And if you need to correct problems with physical properties, you would add likely excess calcium. You need to leach sodium from the root zone. You actually need to leach salts from the root zone. Doesn't say that here, but you need to do both. And then you soil test to determine success. So what's needed? And this is a challenge. So good quality irrigation water, good drainage, and have a calcium source. Good drainage, simply a matter of putting drain tiles into a field. A calcium source is simply adding either gypsum, or if you're working with a calcium carbonate containing soil, calcareous soil, you add elemental sulfur and then give the system some time for the reactions to occur, right? And they're driven by microorganisms. So they're driven by temperature and moisture in the soil, and they take time. The kicker with all this is it looks good on paper, but to have good quality irrigation water is oftentimes a challenge because irrigation water is oftentimes the main culprit for developing a saline sodic soil or a sodic soil or a saline soil. And there are ways to overcome this, believe it or not. We'll talk about some of those ways in subsequent videos.